Hi, I'm Nick Maselli. At TD Bank, we believe all citizens need to be informed about the important financial issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Virtua, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, TD Bank, and by the New Jersey Education Association, working for great public schools for every child. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato from Lincoln Center from the Tisch WNET studio. More importantly, let me introduce a guy I've been reading for a long time in the New York Post. He's Phil Mushnick. Phil, listen, has it been 32 years or 41 years? What's going on here? You've been doing the... How long have you been doing the column?
Column since '82. I got to do that's 20. What? That's 32 years.
32 years.
I've been at the Post since '77, right? Since '73. Excuse me.
See, okay, she's been in the business
Right
for
out of college,
41
yeah.
years, right? But you had the column 32.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you every day you write?
I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
See, right?
Yeah,
You don't know.
it's fabulous.
Now, as we do this program, getting into the spring of 2014, I'm reading over the weekend because every time I read Phil, it's always something that grabs my interest. You're saying, hey, listen, because I like watching golf, and I'm sitting there. I'm saying, I'm not watching the Tiger Woods tour this weekend again. He's only 10 strokes.
He's breathing
10
in
shots
and breathing
behind.
out. What's that up his nostril? I mean, they're showing him line a putt up from 18 feet both sides. Meanwhile, the leaders is putting to go 6 under on the other hole. Oh, what the hell with him?
Is that part of what is wrong with the way we in the media or the networks cover it? Or do you say, hey, listen, most people want to just watch Tiger. Who's wagging what here?
Well, you can. I want to watch Tiger. I want to watch every.
Me too. I got to admit
watch
it.
every shot he takes.
Me too.
But I don't want to watch him walking down the fairway, and I don't want to hear that he's. You want to tell me he's the greatest golfer in the world? That's fine. I'll agree with that. I've written that. I'll support that. It'd be tough to argue against it. But if you want to tell me he's the greatest human being in the world, that nobody loved his father more than he did, no one was a greater father, no one's a greater husband, that's nonsense. It's nonsense. I remember when his father died, he took off a month. And when he came back, I think he was embarrassed by the questions. How are you able to come back and do this? Meanwhile, there was a guy playing a week later. Forget the guy's name. He was a bit of a journeyman PGA guy. Guy was playing. He went to his father's funeral on a Friday, made the qualifier on Monday just to make his living. Nobody said a word about that guy.
Right.
It was in the U.S. It was up in
Not a word.
Yeah, not a word. But you know, why can't he just be the world's greatest golfer? Why
Not
must
enough.
we always be told he's also the world's greatest human being? It's nonsense.
By the way, I forgot to say that Phil Mushnick writes about sports, but he also writes about media from a bigger perspective. It's not just about sports. You write about so much in the media. Shows you really like, the 4 that you like the few that you really, really like are?
The Simpsons.
You do?
I love The Simpsons. It's brilliant.
Still?
Still.
Because?
It's just brilliant social satire. It's great writing. I like Modern Family.
I read that you like that.
It's beautifully edited. It's just a bunch of gags, really, but it's the timing of it is so expert. The editing is
Give me one more you like, because I got about 10 you don't like.
I got more than 10. I don't.
What
do I like? I like. There's a show. There's a real cops and murderers show on A&E called The First 48.
Yeah.
No nonsense. It follows the homicide detectives right through to the end, if they reach the end.
Yeah.
And it's very revealing. It's very eye-opening.
Okay, we're right here at the PBS, the WNET, the flagship, the PBS. I know you love PBS.
I love PBS.
Of course you do. Who doesn't? Now, right across the street, you got our ABC's. You love The View.
No, I don't love
It was a joke.
Oh.
What's your problem with those guys, with those
Well,
nice,
there's
talented
what's
women
the
at
problem
The
with 5 women in a room talking at once
Nothing.
to one another? That's the problem. Then if they're talking to somebody on the phone,
What's
it's
the
one
problem?
thing.
Seriously.
It causes me, for me personally, it causes me an anxiety attack. That's the problem.
But you don't get that.
The problem is that I picture, before they did voice recognition on the closed captioning, Steve, I see the person who was assigned to type in this stuff for the hearing impaired taking a gun and killing himself. Having to type, what are they talking about?
It bothers you that much?
I got stuck recently. I took a friend to a doctor, and I got stuck in the reception room, and his nurse was like gaga over it. And I thought I was going to like burst into the doctor's office and say, I'm next, I'm next.
And you're also, it's interesting with comedy, unless I misinterpreted this, you're not a fan of Jon Stewart and that whole milieu of humor.
I am a fan. What I'm not a fan of is the audiences. The audience, what's happened was everyone has to, it's like everything's audience participation now. You have to show you get it. So you can laugh, you can giggle, but now there's this, you've got to show the comedian or the host or whomever, you get it, so you say, woo! Now, laughter, genuine, legitimate, sincere laughter has been replaced by this phony woo. Now, if I told you a joke on the street, right? Say, hey, Steve, I got a good one for you. And I told you punchline, and you looked at me, my face went, woo! I think you're nuts.
I think something wrong with you.
I think you're nuts. But there's this mass sense that we've all got to participate and say, Cleveland, woo! Cleveland, woo!
Got to be in on it.
I don't like, and anything, listen, I like a dirty joke, provided it's funny. Anything that has any sexual innuendo, anything aimed at the crotch or the rear end or anything like that, the breasts, always gets this gratuitous laughter and woo, and it's not funny. And we've seen legitimate comedy replaced with vulgarity, and it's presented as legitimate comedy. When I look at promos in the middle of a football game, say there was a day, Thanksgiving Day on CBS, where the families gathered, they're watching football, preparing for the meal, and the 2.5 Men promo, if 2.5 Men, the next episode, had 2 inappropriate scenes, those were the scenes that were selected for the promo.
Family TV.
Yeah. So, in other words, what we used to call inappropriate is now considered the most appropriate to sell your wares. It's very sad.
I can't let you out of here unless I ask you about TV news and the fact that you say the days of television, particularly local television news, are numbered.
That's water.
Of course it is. What do you think?
I thought you were a journalist.
This is public.
I thought you were a
Hey,
journalist.
this is the PBS brand of journalism.
Oh, sorry.
Straight up, no alcohol. What do you got for me? Public. Not forget about us. I know you like us. Local TV news.
It's been replaced. Real legitimate breaking news, aggressively reported, investigated news has been replaced with the weather. The weather 3 times per 30 minutes because it's fresh. It's news as they present it. It's the world's coming to an end again. It'll be, and we'll see you Thursday when it doesn't end. We'll tell you the world's coming to an end again. Bundle up. It's February. I knew that. That's what the local news has also become the pregame show for whatever's on TV that night on that network.
It's just a setup for what's coming?
All shills. Why do they have broadcast journalism majors at these colleges when there's no broadcast
Devil's
journalism?
advocate, news director comes in here and says, Steve, what's Mushnick talking about? That's what the people want. You say?
No, that's what your bosses want. That's what your bosses want. You're just meeting the terms of your agreement.
What do you think most people want? Particularly in the age of social media.
I don't think that's any of your business. No, I mean, I don't know. Listen, for better or worse, I'm paid for my opinion. And for better or worse, I provide it. I think most people, for example, the news, who's normally inclined to watch the news? It's not morons. It's people who want the news. And what they're gearing the news now is toward people who are morons, who wouldn't be inclined to watch the news. So it goes lower and lower.
Sounds
and lower.
counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive. Well, listen, and just the the condition of sitcoms. Now, there's in reality shows on cable, which are just nonsense. They're not reality, they're setups. If that's
Set
a
up
reality
situations
show,
for things to happen that are
right.
quote unquote dramatic, which
and
we know they're not.
it's all there's the fights. It's shoving. No one's getting punched.
Lots of alcohol involved, I noticed. Yeah. Let's buy them. No, you're not getting it here.
I'm
Phil.
disappointed.
We're not disappointed in Phil Mushnick because you can check out Phil. By the way, he's been doing it for 32 years, and there's no sign of him stopping. And I'm glad for that. Because
You don't retire, you expire.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Don't expire anytime soon because we like what you're doing.
Thanks,
Appreciate
brother.
it, Phil.
Thank you.
Phil Mushnick in the house here at the Tisch WNET studio at the PBS flagship. Did you know that? That's what WNET is?
The flag.
Wave the flag. We'll be right back right after this. Thanks.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Brandon Dirden is performing in All the Way on Broadway. It is at the Neil Simon Theater on 250 West 52nd Street. This is a story of the first year of Lyndon Baines Johnson year in office, 1964. It is leading up to the signing of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and you play the great Dr. Martin Luther King. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Steve.
And who's the other guy who plays Lyndon Johnson? What's his name?
Oh, yeah, you know, I forget all the time.
That's not the Cranston guy, is it?
That's it. You got it. Bryan Cranston.
How
Bryan
good is he?
Cranston.
How good is he?
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Not bad, no.
We were joking before we got on. You have to carry him every night.
Yeah, you know, I got to tell him to lay off the snacks because it's getting a little heavy to carry.
Why was he born to play that role? Before we see the clip of the two of you, Johnson and Dr. King, talking about the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which is, we're celebrating actually the 50th anniversary of that act.
Right.
Why was he born to play that role?
Well, Bryan, from what we saw in the Breaking Bad, has the ability to be absolutely terrifying and charismatic at the same time, and he's just a whip-smart actor. And Johnson was famous for his Johnson treatment, and it involved and encompassed all those elements. And oddly enough, you don't see a bit of Walter White, you know, Bryan's character from Breaking Bad. In this, you see completely Johnson. But he just loses himself nightly in this performance, and it's an amazing thing to watch.
Ready to take a clip? We'll take a look at the clip?
Let's do it.
This is Johnson and Dr. King. Powerful stuff.
We're going to declare a war on poverty, and by God, we're going to beat it.
A war on poverty?
That's right. Now, I got all kinds of federal programs in mind on health, education, literacy, jobs, you name it. We're going to change this country, top to bottom.
Well, that sounds extraordinary.
There you go.
But right now, I need to be able to go back to my people and tell them that this president is committed to civil rights, and that this bill, even without voting rights, will still be a strong bill with no further changes. If I can't do that, I will lose their faith, and in their despair, I don't know what will happen.
So Dr. King understood politics as well.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a great thing about this play. Robert Schenken has created a side of Dr. King that we don't get to see very often. You know, we get the I Have a Dream speech, and we'll get his I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. But Dr. King knew that it wasn't just speeches that was going to evoke change. So he was president of the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and he was the face of the Civil Rights Movement. But there were other factions of the movement that had to be organized in order to present a unified, you know, position to the president.
And there were many in that movement who thought that Dr. King was not strident enough.
Oh, yeah. Stokely Carmichael really felt that Dr. King was much too passive. And so we got great scenes in the play where we see King working with Stokely and having to juggle so many balls in the air about what position we're going to take and what position we're going to present to the president and how we're going to apply the pressure. See, Dr. King knew that Kennedy had made all these promises and never made good on them. And this window of change is shrinking and it's closing, closing, closing. And so when Johnson announces to the country that he's going to make civil rights a priority, all right, we got to go. We got to hold his feet to the fire.
Let's be clear, because Kennedy is assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. Johnson takes over, obviously, immediately.
That's right.
And the country is unified in this certain fashion.
That's right.
And also, it's interesting, is because Kennedy is killed in Dallas, not insignificant.
That's right.
Not insignificant. Without getting too deep into it, there is this window, and Johnson has the country together.
Yeah.
If it hadn't happened in 1964, Johnson gets reelected overwhelmingly, beats Barry Goldwater in a landslide. What is Johnson's mandate, particularly after Vietnam starts taking over the country? You can't be doing two things at once.
Not at all. Not at all. And which is so interesting, I think Johnson, more than anything, what I'm learning about him is that he just wanted to be effective. And so if this was on the agenda from when he was vice president, he felt a sincere responsibility and need to get it done. You know, a lot of people question, was he sincere? Did he really, if he had been elected instead of Kennedy, you know, if he had been the president, would he have made it a priority? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you know, nothing coming from the state of Texas said that he had to make it a priority.
That's right.
You know, certainly. So what I love about what we see about Johnson is that his desire to be effective and to finish the job, finish what got started.
For you, your research into Dr. King, what did it mean to you personally?
You know, I think everybody involved in this show should probably get college credit for maybe a master's in American history here, certainly in the civil rights era. There are large amounts of information that I thought I knew already, and this play exposed me. It said that you don't even know half of what you need to know. You didn't know this man, Dr. King, even though we went to the same college. You know, I went to Morehouse's alma mater. It says, you did not really know the courage that this man had. You know, how many years of his life did he live with death threats, ever since the Montgomery bus boycott? To get up every day and put yourself in the line of fire, literally, for a decade after that.
So it's interesting, when Malcolm X is assassinated, literally not too far away from where we're doing this program right now, in the Audubon Ballroom, right?
That's right.
1965.
That's right.
Does it become more clear to King how close to death he is?
Yeah, I think King knew. At some point, I mean, we hear in his last speech in Memphis, he says...
With the garbage man strike?
That's right, the last recorded speech. And he says, you know, I may not have longevity. Of course, I would want longevity. But it may not be for me. And I think he knows. I think he certainly has a premonition, and he's come to terms with it. It sounds like in his voice and in his speech and the content of his speech. And he gave us a gift with that last speech. Say, if I depart soon, and we know he did.
I may not get there with you.
I may not get there with you, right? But I'm leaving you this. And that speech is full of hope. It's full of courage. It's an outline. He talks about how to implement change next in terms of economic boycotting. He gives us strategy. If you just pick this up, this is how we're going to get to the goal line.
Is it fair to say that without Dr. King, there's a very good chance, it is likely, that the 1964 Civil Rights Act would not have happened?
It's more than the chance. It is certain that it would not happen. It is absolutely certain. I believe that.
So interesting. Tell people why they should go see this play.
You can't miss it. I think this play, what it does better than any other play on Broadway today, certainly, and any other play that I've been involved with or seen in many, many years, is that this is an American story. And not this, what happens in this play could happen in no other country. This is a byproduct of what happens when you have the greatest country on the earth and its ideals and its principles, when it's forced to answer to it and to take a look and say, have we lived up to the promises of our founding fathers? Where are we? And this is the period, 1963, 1964, is the most critical point in American history that says, are we honoring our promises as a nation? And this play, within a 3-hour period, it's such a roller coaster ride of humor, of passion, of heart. Even though you know what's going to happen, you're on the edge of your seat to find out how it's going to happen. And beyond that, it's some pretty good acting.
Yeah, and that guy Bryan Cranston, good thing you're helping him out.
I think he has a future. You know, it's his debut, but I think he has a pretty solid debut in this one.
So you got a great future as well, performing in All the Way at the Neil Simon Theater right here in the heart of Broadway, along with Bryan Cranston. A great story, a powerful story, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which changed this country for the better. You played Dr. Martin Luther King. Everyone should go out and see it. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Honor us by being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back from Lincoln Center right after this. Thank you.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Dr. Elizabeth Bennett is Vice President for Species Conservation at the Wildlife Conservation Society. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are here to talk on public television about a very serious problem in Africa, and that is that since 2012, 35,000 African elephants were killed. Every day in Africa, how many elephants are killed?
About 96 elephants are killed every day in Africa.
Okay, so I'm sitting there saying they're killed because?
They're ivory. The ivory is now a huge international burgeoning trade, and it's very lucrative, and it's to markets all over the world, primarily to East Asia, but other places as well, including New York.
We are right here in the heart of Manhattan, New York City. You told me right before we got on the air that we have a huge ivory trade here.
There's a big ivory trade in Manhattan. Some of it's legal, and we know quite a lot of it is probably illegal. And one of the problems is that the legal trade provides a front for the cover for the illegal trade. So it's very hard to tell how old a piece of ivory is. So ivory beyond a certain age is legal, because if it was brought in before the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species came into effect, and some of the US laws to support that came into effect, then it's legal to sell it in the States. But the trouble is, you don't know how old ivory is, because if you think of a tusk of an elephant, the end there might be 50 years old, that bit of ivory. So if that's where your carving comes from, but the elephant might have been shot last week. So that's the whole problem, is that you can launder the stuff through.
But Doctor, I thought that, and the information that I was reading to get ready for this show said that the number of African elephants a while back being killed had dipped, and then all of a sudden it started to rise. Why?
There was a huge upsurge in poaching in about the 1970s and 1980s in Africa. And so then in 1989, there was an international complete trade ban. There
was a trade ban.
A total international trade ban for international trade.
Right.
And so that was, everybody took that very seriously. It was really put into effect, and that caused elephant populations to recover. But then since then, really with the opening up of middle class in parts of East Asia and the rise in demand for ivory, that's caused that basically to break down. And so certainly from the mid-2000s onwards, the numbers have just been plummeting again.
Why is the elephant in Africa so important?
From the conservation point of view, I mean, partly they're the largest land animal left on Earth. And so they are highly intelligent, highly social, and so just for their own sake, they are really important. They are also very important in terms of keeping the ecosystem healthy.
Make that clear.
The forests and savannas are a mix of all sorts of complicated relationships between the plants and the animals and the environment, and elephants are really important for that. So they are, being so big, they can disperse seeds that other species can't disperse, and some seeds will only disperse after they've been through the inside of an elephant and been sort of fertilized on the way. And so if you lose elephants, you'll lose some of those plants. Forest elephants particularly are called ecosystem engineers.
Ecosystem engineers.
And so what that means is that they keep paths open in the forest because they're so big and they go through in these big groups. And there's mineral-rich clearings in the forest that they basically dig in all the time. If you go and you can see these elephants digging through to get the minerals there, and that keeps these areas open as clearings, and that allows gorillas and all sorts of birds and other species also to survive in those areas.
You know, Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Sorry, the other thing I was going to say is the other thing that they're really important for in terms of people is ecotourism. So if you think of why do people go to Africa and spend their ecotourism dollars in Africa?
I don't want to see elephants.
They want to see elephants. And that's hugely important, and it's really important, particularly for savanna countries in Eastern and Southern Africa, is having elephants there is a major tourist draw, and that brings in countries, some of the country's largest foreign revenue.
People watching us on public television right now, many of them are asking the question, if I care about this, which you should, what can and should I do? What's the answer?
The ivory markets in this country are very significant. So one of the things we can do is A, stop buying ivory, but B, these international bans...
Excuse me, stop buying ivory, so therefore the market dries up?
The market dries up, that's exactly right.
Oh my God, what are we looking at?
We're looking at one of these wonderful mineral-rich clearings in Africa where the poachers have been in and been shooting the elephants. Part of the trouble with them congregating in these social groups in these clearings is that if you know where they are, you know where to go and poach them.
Sorry, I just want you to describe that. Finish your statement about if we want to be helpful.
If we want to be helpful, basically what we need to do is stop the demand for ivory at least until populations recover and we can get some really good enforcement systems on the ground. And so because the illegal trade basically slides in under the cover of legal trade, what we need to do for at least a while is to stop all new legal trade in ivory, because that means that demand would stop, we can get the poaching back under control, and since the US is a significant market for ivory, if we can close down all ivory markets, at least for 10 years or so till elephant populations can start to recover, that's both important for its own sake, because the US is an important market, and it also sets a hugely strong example to other countries, particularly in East Asia.
Dr. Elizabeth Bennett, I want to thank you for joining us and talking to us about something that is important to us. Even when we are in New York City, what's happening in Africa affects all of us. We need to be a part of the solution. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Virtua, NJIT, New Jersey Natural Gas, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, TD Bank, and by the New Jersey Education Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Some things were never meant to be cut. That's why when you have knee replacement at Virtua, we don't cut the quadriceps tendon. Because when it comes to getting you past chronic knee pain and on with your life, it's what we don't cut that counts. Visit GotMyLifeBack.org today.